Going to the people about going it alone. President Obama prepares to explain to the nation why he is sidestepping Congress on immigration reform. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Doug McKelway. Brett Baer is on assignment, and we will hear from him shortly. But first, we are about 2 hours away now from President Obama's explanation on his upcoming use of executive authority to legalize millions of illegal immigrants, a move that has already set off a cacophony of protests on Capitol Hill and throughout much of the country. We have Fox team coverage. Mike Emanuel at the Capitol looks at one of the key arguments Democrats are making for the president's bold move. John Roberts in Boca Raton, Florida, with arguments against it by some of the people who would like to replace the president in 2 years. But we begin with Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry and a look at what President Obama is expected to say tonight. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Doug. We're learning this hour the president's not going to sign any actual executive orders. Instead, they'll be called presidential memos instructing officials to take various actions. But Republicans say no matter what he calls it, it's a power grab, and they'll stop it.
And pushing boundaries.
Aides tell Fox that President Obama made a final decision to move forward with unilateral action this week after returning from Asia. And as speechwriters put the final touches on tonight's primetime address, the president tried to wrap himself in the American flag.
We want them to initiate new discoveries and start businesses right here in the United States. So that's what I'll be talking about a little bit tonight. Part of keeping America prosperous and keeping America strong.
In a harsh pre-buttal, Republican Ted Cruz quoted the Roman philosopher Cicero to charge there's nothing American about this.
We alone, I say it openly, we the Senate are waiting in our duty to stop this lawless administration and its unconstitutional amnesty.
White House aides are already taunting Republicans, however, telling reporters the president cannot be stopped because U.S. citizenship and immigration services are funded with fees paid by applicants, not dollars appropriated by Congress, though Republicans are vowing to find a way to cut off the funds anyway.
All options are on the table right now. The resolve within our conference, I believe both in the House and the new Senate that will come into power, is to stop this illegal action from taking place.
What they're trying to stop are executive actions focused on protecting roughly 5 million illegal immigrants from deportation, including the parents of U.S. citizens and green card holders if those parents have been in America at least 5 years, and expanding a 2012 deferred action program for kids that will allow more young people known as dreamers to stay in America, giving Democrats a chance to cast it as humanitarian.
But we can't sit idly by, waiting for Republicans to act while homes are being broken up all across this nation.
The second focus of the president's executive actions will be border security, to blunt GOP attacks pointing out he's been weak in that area. The president will sign a memo instructing Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson to shift resources for Border Patrol agents and ICE personnel to prioritize tracking down illegal immigrants who have felonies, are gang members, or are tied to terror. Democrats say that's a move toward the GOP, and they should finish the job with legislation.
Republicans shouldn't get mad. They should get even. They should nullify the president's executive order by passing our bill and passing it now.
At a dinner honoring the late Jack Kemp, Republican Paul Ryan said those demands ring hollow since the president failed to act.
He had full control of Congress, supermajorities, 2009, 2010. Did he lift a finger to do anything about this at that time? No, he didn't.
Now, even before the speech, Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly is criticizing and saying, quote, I am as frustrated as anyone that Congress is not doing its job, but the president shouldn't make such significant policy changes on his own. A sign the criticism may not just be from the right, Doug.
Ed Henry prepared for a potentially long night on the North Lawn tonight. Thank you, Ed.
Good.
The Republican Governors Conference in Florida provided senior national correspondent John Roberts with one-stop shopping today on GOP reaction to the president's plan. An added bonus, many of those talking may actually want to be president in just a couple of years. Here's John's report.
I have no obligation to do the president's job for him.
The immigration order might come from Washington, but it's the states that will be left holding the bag. And the Republican governors meeting here in Florida are incensed about it.
I think the president's being irresponsible. And I know those are strong words, but the fact is I think the president is being irresponsible.
Governor Rick Perry's state of Texas took the brunt of a wave of illegal migration last year. Tens of thousands of families and unaccompanied children flooding the state, forcing the governor to deploy precious law enforcement resources to the border. Perry fears the president's actions will launch another wave.
There's going to be another deluge with this announcement of amnesty is coming, so hurry up and get here so you can be a part of that.
Perry has hinted he may sue the White House over the executive action. Other governors, including Louisiana's Bobby Jindal, say Republicans should leave the option of a government shutdown on the table.
He acts like he was the first president ever that Congress ever disagreed with him. When he doesn't get his way, he violates the law, violates the Constitution.
Granting de facto amnesty may force states to give driver's licenses, public assistance, in-state tuition, and more to millions of illegal immigrants. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who also believes states should take the president to court, says the cost could be enormous.
If we're paying more in that area, that means less for schools, for colleges, for universities, for higher education overall. It means less money for the things that we find to be important because of this move.
Walker believes the president is doing this to distract Republicans from the agenda they want to pursue when they take control of Congress next year. Ohio Governor John Kasich, who says he's open to a path to citizenship for illegals, believes Republicans may have to meet the president halfway if they don't want their shot at governing derailed.
I've said it all along. I hope the Republicans have appealed to him to slow down. But what they have to say to him is, we want to get something done on this issue as well.
And there could be an even bigger picture to the president's moves. If he can split the factions in the Republican Party and stall immigration reform, he could blunt Republican efforts to bring more Latinos into the fold, giving Democrats a better shot to take back the Senate and win the White House in 2016. Doug?
John Robertson, Boca Raton. Thank you, John. The president's people are not unprepared for charges that he is exceeding his executive authority. Tonight, Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel looks at perhaps the central argument that this has all been done before by Republicans.
Look to Ronald Reagan, your hero. Look what he did to keep families united.
Numerous times in recent weeks, Democrats have compared what President Obama is doing with executive action on immigration to former Presidents Reagan and Bush 41. Today, a leading Senate Democrat took it a step further.
The Republicans who are criticizing the president for this executive action ignore the fact that 11 previous presidents have done exactly the same thing, using their executive authority to address the issues of immigration.
Yet some experts note Mr. Obama is going against the will of Congress, which rejected the DREAM Act several times, while Reagan and Bush made administrative corrections based on what Congress intended.
There is no comparison between what the president is doing and what President Reagan or President Bush did.
In 1986, Congress passed the Immigration and Reform Control Act, which provided amnesty to about 3 million illegal immigrants. Then President Reagan acted unilaterally to allow minor children of those receiving amnesty to receive protection from deportation. In 1990, President Bush deferred deportation of spouses and children of those legalized by the 1986 law.
They had a law Congress had passed. Here we have a president who has no law, who has said he doesn't care whether Congress passes a law, he's going to go forward with these actions. So in the case of Presidents Reagan and Bush, they were actually building upon a law that Congress had passed.
There's also a difference in numbers, with the Reagan order what some describe as a nominal addition to the 2.7 million authorized by legislation. Bush 41's action affecting up to 1.5 million, while Mr. Obama is expected to be more than 5 million people.
While it's analogous to mention Reagan and Bush, it's only naturally would. They did do executive orders on behalf of the illegal immigration problem. It was the largesse of this is what makes it unique.
After Bush took action, Congress passed a 1990 Immigration Act to make a family unity provision permanent. It is not clear if a new Republican Congress will be willing to follow Mr. Obama's lead. Doug?
Mike Emanuel, thank you. Health and Human Services Secretary Sylvia Burwell says the over-reporting of Obamacare sign-up numbers is unacceptable. Burwell tweeted that out after Republicans discovered that 400,000 individuals who signed up for both medical and dental coverage through Obamacare exchanges were counted twice. That lowers the total enrollment from the announced 7.1 million to 6.7 million. Stocks are up today. The Dow gained 33. The S&P 500 finished ahead 4. NASDAQ was up 26. Coming up next, how China could literally turn out the lights on your family. But first, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 49 in Tallahassee, Florida, with a shooting on the campus of Florida State University. Police say the gunman opened fire at a library, wounding 3 students before he was killed by police. They say Myron May was a graduate of Florida State and went to law school in Texas, and that he believed the government was after him. Fox 31 in Denver with a voluntary recall of about 5 million strollers manufactured by Graco. The strollers have external sliding fold lock hinges that can pinch or even cut off a child's finger. You can get more information from the Consumer Product Safety Commission website. And this is a live look at St. Louis, Missouri from Fox 2. The big story there tonight. The wait continues for a grand jury decision on criminal charges against a white police officer who fatally shot an unarmed African-American man in Ferguson last August. Several nights of calm were broken by a raucous protest at police headquarters in Ferguson just last night. The governor has already declared a state of emergency and put the National Guard on alert. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.